If you're an entrepreneur, you know what it means to take personal and financial risks, create jobs that support your community, and devote most of your time to your business. But do you know how to plan for a successful exit from your business? Do you know who should be involved in creating your succession or transition plan and the steps along the way? Welcome to Finish Big, the podcast with Mark Dorman from Legacy Business Advisors. The podcast theme is inspired by critically acclaimed business author Bo Burlingham, author of Finish Big, How Great Entrepreneurs Exit Their Companies on Top. In this podcast, you'll hear success stories of exit plans done right and pick up practical tips based on years of Legacy Business Advisors' expertise and knowledge about the largest and most important financial transaction of your life. Now, on to the show.
Hello, this is Mark Dorman, your host of the Finish Big podcast. Thank you for joining us today. I am very excited to be joined by a friend and a very successful business person, Brian D. Gale. Let me tell you a little bit about Brian. Brian Gale is a builder of businesses. Throughout his career, he's been an advisor, executive owner, an investor, and a board member. So listen up. Each time growing the enterprises he served or led, he successfully grew a company organically and via acquisition in a competitive business environment. A private equity executive once said of Brian, he saw an opportunity, developed a strategy, and executed it. That's tough to do, he said. He brings significant mergers and acquisitions experience, identifying targets, executing deals, and effectively integrating the newly acquired business. He has a proven track record of doing this successfully over and over again. He is known as a personable executive, hard to find these days, with an excellent reputation by both colleagues, suppliers, peers, and competitors alike. Brian recently successfully grew ID Images based in Brunswick, Ohio, from one location doing $10 million in revenue. It's a label manufacturer, into multiple locations doing $100 million in revenue and leading its industry. During his tenure as chairman and CEO, he expanded ID Images by completing 11 acquisitions. He currently serves on the boards of 3 middle market private companies, a startup business in the battery and technology space, a manufacturer of highly engineered products, and a provider of building automation products as well. He's also an active board member on a nonprofit marketer offering insurance products and solutions to members of the military community. Brian earned his MBA in 2002 from the University of Chicago's Booth School of Management and Business. His multi-department focus led to concentrations in finance, entrepreneurship, managerial, and organizational strategy. He graduated with an AB in economics from Harvard University in 1996. He also holds a chartered financial analyst or CFA designation. Brian's also certified as a Six Sigma Green Belt through the Villanova University and completed work in lean education through the University of Akron. Brian resides in Bay Village, a community just west of Cleveland, Ohio, with his wife Kelly and their son Logan. My friend Brian Gale, I got to catch my breath after that, pal. Welcome to Finish Big.
Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it. Glad to be here.
Well, I am excited. As I was preparing for our show today, I thought, man, this is the guy that just brings it all together. You know, Finish Big, just to give you a little bit of background and remind our listeners, is all about entrepreneurs that exit their business on top and really people that help them do that, right? It's really helping to uncover become vulnerable with what you would do differently, who helped you, who should you have had help you, etc. So when I looked at your bio, I mean, you've touched everything on there. I'm sure you've got some skeletons or some failures. We all have. But what I like about what I just read there, it's a little bit of M&A, a little bit of Six Sigma, helping others with their businesses, successfully growing and exiting yours. So tell us about yourself, Brian. How did you get started? I mean, you went to a number of great schools, but walk us through when you graduated from Harvard or perhaps the Chicago Booth School of Business and where your path led you from there.
Sure. Well, I graduated from Harvard. I went into investment banking, a very common path for Ivy League graduates. Mine was a little unique. I was at a boutique investment bank in Columbus, Ohio. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I had a lot of good friends, good memories, learned a lot, and got to exposed to a lot of different businesses. Honestly, I thought I'd be doing it for a long time. 1998, I was newly married. The firm I worked for merged with another firm. And despite the fact on every metric you could come up with, our investment banking group was more profitable than theirs, they put their guys in charge. I was part of a bank conglomerate. And when that happened, I came home, again, newly married, kind of egotistical, told my wife, if corporate America is not a meritocracy, I need to figure a way out. And it became very clear, my boss was going to leave, my boss's boss was going to leave, they all left. So I didn't know what I wanted to do. Knew I wasn't ready to go to business school. I'd been only out of school 2 years. So I took a job at Putnam Investments on the buy side as an equity analyst. And again, I enjoyed it, but I realized I didn't want to be just a finance guy for the rest of my life. I wanted to do something more. And then probably the bent to have a product came from the fact my dad was an accountant. He had a nice accounting practice, nice business, but it was obvious, his clients wanted him. So it was very challenging for him to scale that business. And I didn't want to be in a business where it was only me, right? It was me the clients wanted. So I decided to go to business school, fully intent on changing careers. Got into the University of Chicago, loved it, had an opportunity to go work for Bain & Company, consulting firm in Boston. Did that for my summer between my 2 years. And then they offered me a job. So I took a job at Bain for when I graduated. So I was going to have a great second year of business school. I already had a job, got a signing bonus, life was good. Sometime in the early spring, Bain called and, we had set our start dates. I was supposed to start in July. So graduate in June, take a few weeks off, move to Boston, start work. They delayed our start dates. And
you were married at this time?
I was married, yes.
Yeah. Any children?
No kids.
Okay.
Not yet. And Bain delayed. I'm getting the sequence wrong, so bear with me. A gentleman I had consulted for free when I was a lowly investment banker had started a business. He was a family friend. He'd started a business that had become ID Images. He called me and said, "Hey, remember that business you helped me finance?" I'm like, well, I really didn't do anything. I looked at term sheets, right? You raised some venture capital. He said, I got it off the ground. I need a succession plan. That's great, Dick. How about, he's like, what does that mean to me? He's like, how about you? Labels, packaging, I'm good. Thanks. I've got a job at Bain. As luck would have it, or as God works in mysterious ways, whatever you want to believe, Bain called me that week and said they were delaying start dates because of the recession. Okay, what do? I've got student loans. I'm ready to work. I'm driving my wife crazy. We're going to move to Boston. I need to do something. So I called him back, said, hey, remember, we talked Tuesday, it's Thursday. And I said, no, well, how about I come consult for you for a while and see if we like working together? That's a great idea. So I did. So I spent the summer of 2002 and a little longer. So I probably spent, 12, 13 weeks with him and absolutely loved it. It was a small business, 25 people doing labels and
very entrepreneurial, very much walk in, look everyone in the eye, know everybody, et cetera.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yes.
Yep.
Went back and worked at Bain and learned a lot. And I knew I wasn't going to stay long, but we worked out a deal where I joined him a year later. So I spent a year at Bain, then joined ID Images full-time in October of 2003 with the plan I'd be a significant minority owner and eventually be the president CEO of the business. So we flash forward to 2005. He says, congratulations, you're the president. I just want to be consultant in big decisions. So anytime you're going to spend over 50 grand, just let me know and we'll talk about it. Great. So things are great. So right, I'm 31 years old at the time. I'm running a business. When I joined, I was employee 29. Probably in 05, we probably had about 40 or 45 people. And things were great. That goes on for about a year. And then he gets bored. He gets back involved in the business. And I owned, and at the time, I owned 15, 20% of the business. And we had different styles and we had different goals, right? We were a small business at the time, probably doing 7 million in revenue. He was in his 60s and wanted cash. I was 30, wanted to grow the business. Most small businesses, right? You can't afford to do both. And if you try to do both, right, you potentially bankrupt yourself. So to his credit, he sat me down and said, hey, it's not you. I thought I could retire. I've worked my entire life. I've got 90% of my net worth tied up in this business. I'm not going to go away. It's like, how about you buy me out? I'm like, I'd love to. So we worked out a deal and I bought him out. We closed June 4th of 2007. By July of 2007, the world had changed dramatically, particularly in the financial side.
Yeah. So let me just maybe pause right there. So and when you bought him out, Was that bank financing? Some
So I had bank
angel
financing,
investors?
sub debt, and then some friends and family equity. So I had an investment bank in Cleveland, Brummel Capital, helped me raise money. So the vast majority came from my wife, Kelly, and me, though. The equity came from Kelly and me. And then my family invested. And I had two, what I would call family offices in Cleveland that I knew were the equity. Then we raised professional sub debt. And then we had bank financing as well.
Yeah, but I mean, but a guy like you with your education and your professional background, even at 31 years old, I mean, you'd be a pretty good horse to bet on, right? I mean, pretty good odds that this isn't Larry, Curly, and Moe that's buying this business.
Well, thank you, and certainly that helped. I think, and I'm not going to deny that certainly helped raise equity and raise the sub debt.
So this is June 4th, 2007, and then boom, the financial crisis hits, and now you own this business. You've got bank financing, mezzanine financing. You've got your friends and family involved, and you're thinking, "What in the world have I just done?" Right?
It was a harrowing experience. In hindsight, I wouldn't change it. I know one of the questions, what would you change? We're all victims, products of our circumstances.
Sure.
And I was fortunate that I had really good partners, and we made a commitment. We weren't going to cut anything unless we started losing money and went cash flow negative. And we never went cash flow negative. In February of 2009, our revenues were down 44% year over year. Wow. We lost a couple $100 in earnings, but our EBITDA was positive. So our cash flow was still positive. And to their credit, they stuck with me. I had a plan, right? I told them, I've got the plan. If things go haywire and we start losing money, I
can't control the global economy here, guys. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. But they stuck with me, and we bounced back faster. So we actually made our first acquisition in September of 2009. So we invested more. We doubled down essentially before the world came back. We started investing again.
So that timeline is when you bought the business from Dick. Revenue was like 7 or 8 million. Or thereabouts, and then at the beginning of the financial crisis, or at the peak or the bottom of the financial crisis, what was your revenue then?
The run rate. So when I bought them, I'll use round terms. When I bought them, the run rate was probably about 15 million. During the financial crisis, I think the lowest run rate went down to about 10. So down a third.
But yet you still have so much belief in your plan and yourself that through it all, you remained cash flow positive, as you mentioned, and you still have your eye out for acquisitions, because that would probably, for a lot of our listeners, think, what is this guy thinking, right? Well,
and you and I talked about it because you're an entrepreneur, right? When you're young and dumb, you really don't know what you don't know, right? And you take those risks.
I even tell my kids today, Brian, I'm like, look, before you have any kids, I mean, my oldest son's 30, 31, just like you. My middle son is 20. I'm like, you can afford to make mistakes when you're young, but once you got, 4 kids tucked in at night, you're like, your mindset changes quite a bit.
Absolutely. Right? I 100% agree with you. Take those risks before you establish a lifestyle, right? Correct. And commitments.
Good point there. Good point. So you came out of the financial crisis. Talk to us about your first acquisition. How did you find it? How large was that? And these are bolt-on acquisitions, I assume?
The first one was a bolt-on. So historically, at that time, ID Images, we were known for doing long-run label jobs. So
give us our listeners an example. What does that look like?
So think of 1 million labels and more, big label jobs. So, and at the time, we did a lot of shipping, logistics, warehouse labels. So think of somebody shipping a lot of product. We do the blank labels for them. They put your address on it. So we'd run millions and millions at a time. One of the challenges we had during the financial crisis was people wanted less inventory. So we had to do smaller orders. We were not good at it. We didn't have the equipment, the mindsets, the culture, the systems to run small jobs. We just weren't good at it. And, I talked to vendors, suppliers, customers, everybody I could about acquisitions. And our first acquisition came through one of our suppliers. And she told me, hey, if you're interested in acquisitions, I think there's a small company in Cincinnati that might be for sale. So I wrote him a letter, an actual letter, not an email, put it in the mail, said I'd follow up with a phone call. And then I called them. I said, I'll call you we bought them in September of 2009. So it's probably June of 09. I'll call you on June 10th, 2009.
Yeah.
And I did. And
Yeah,
they were surprised.
Imagine that you did, right? So,
Well,
I mean, just let's pause there. I want to
Yeah.
just go a little bit deeper there, if you don't mind. So this company in Cincinnati,
Yep.
what were their circumstances? Was it an aging owner that said, I don't have a succession plan?
It was two brothers who had founded the business. Great guys. One of them had health issues, and unfortunately, he passed away a few years after. And the other brother stayed with me through the end. He was there till I sold in 2000, July 21. Really good guy. Became a close friend. We still text and talk.
Wow.
But yeah, when Dan, the older brother, developed some health issues, Larry did not want to double down and buy him out. And, he was probably in his 50s, didn't want to do it. So they needed a succession plan. So yes, I became essentially the succession plan.
Awesome. So how large was that first acquisition in terms of revenue?
They were doing a little less than $1 million in revenue.
Okay. So you're talking like a micro business, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, a good place for you to, as a young guy to kind of practice.
It was a good place to practice. And,
right.
and one of the learnings, as I mentioned, Larry came to work for us, and it worked out really well. In the future,
so did he become part of your management team?
He became a sales guy.
Okay.
And there were some rough moments because he was used to running his own show. And
sure.
There were things we both said to each other we'd regret, but we still are friends to this day. But for us as a business, I thought, oh, I can work with other owners really easily. And, Larry was a unique character. He fit in well, and we got along well. One of the mistakes I made in the future was keeping some owners around when I bought them that I should not have kept around.
Yeah. So that's one of your, I wouldn't do that again, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So when you buy my business, you probably want me to stay on for 6 months or less, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so that was acquisition one in your bio, and we're listening today to Brian Gale. Brian's a board member, consultant, and investor, Northeast Ohio guy who extremely well-educated folks, but really has a high level of entrepreneurial drive. And this is just a great story. So let's get back to it. So that was your first acquisition. 10 more came. Give us kind of the Reader's Digest version of that journey, please.
So the segment of the label business we were in required scale to compete. It was consolidating, right? If you think about what's happened in the world over the last 30 years, the big users of the labels are consumer packaged goods companies, beverage companies, health and beauty companies, and shipping companies. What's happened over the last 30 years, right? Kraft Heinz are now the same company.
Yep.
So there's been a lot of consolidation for the customers. So I thought, particularly in the segments we were in, we need scale to compete. So how do you do that? You either open new locations or make acquisitions. And we did a little bit of both. For the acquisitions, we were looking for geographic expansion, better ship, right? We're shipping a heavy product, costs a lot to ship. The closer we can get to customers, the better off we are. Capabilities. So do they do some product or have some technology we don't have?
Yeah, so if I'm making a million labels and I've got to ship them to Phoenix, it'd be great if I had a plant close by. My margins would go way up, right?
So that's exactly what we did, and we followed customers across the country. And then finally acquiring talent. One of the challenges, labels get lumped in the printing industry. The printing industry is, quote, dying. And segments of the printing industry are very challenged. Labels were not, but it was very hard to attract young, smart people. Wait, label business? I don't want to be in printing.
It sounds like you when you were first approached,
exactly.
right?
Exactly. But it's a great business. It's still growing to this day. It's a great industry.
Yeah. So what were the size of each one of these bolt-on acquisitions? Was there some that you just said, yeah, this is a bit too big for me to swallow?
Yeah, there were some I looked at that I didn't feel comfortable making that bet. In hindsight, the way things worked out, I would have bet bigger. I don't have any regrets, but I would have certainly bet bigger the way it worked out because, like I said, the industry thrived, and we did as well. So I'm a deal guy by nature, right? I started out in investment banking, so I love buying businesses. So we got to the point at the end.
The thrill of the chase, right, Brian?
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I got you, yeah.
And I didn't have to do all the hard work. Once we got bigger, the first few, I was very involved in the integration. Once we got bigger, we had my management team did that. And I like to joke, if I kept that idea, which was doing small acquisitions, I would end up dead, and it would have been either my wife or the management team that killed me, or a combination of them colluding, because they got stuck with all the work, right? Yeah. I was gone. chasing these little businesses. My management team got stuck doing all the integration work and the due diligence work, and they weren't going to move the needle. So our last couple acquisitions in 2020.
So let me just expound on that a little bit. I mean, because for a young guy, can I ask how old are you now?
I turned 49 last week.
All right. I mean, this is just an incredible story. Thank you so much for being on Finish Big. But you quickly were smart enough to elevate yourself to this CEO chairman role where you were more on the strategic, looking down the road, looking for the next good opportunity to scale this business.
Yep.
Your management team you're pitching them these deals saying, figure it out. Oh, by the way, keep our quality up, grow our sales, et cetera. Is that about how it went?
That is exactly how it went. And they probably have a few curse words I added into what you just said.
Yeah. I don't care what you think, just get it done. But I mean, so how big was your management team kind of at the peak, so to speak?
So
your inner circle, if you close the door, how many folks are in the room?
4 key people.
4. Okay. And what were their titles?
Director of operations, so ran all the manufacturing, director of sales and marketing, director of human resources, then the director of IT and accounting.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And just one of the things that we talk about in our business professionally with Legacy Business Advisors is retaining senior management talent without giving them equity. So not to get too personal, but did they have equity in the business? They did. Okay.
They did.
Actual equity or synthetic equity?
It was synthetic equity.
Okay.
And they all got very large checks when I sold.
Yeah. Good.
And
good
I had a few legacy people that had been part of the management team when I bought the business that had equity as well, and a couple of salespeople. When I told them all their numbers, a few let out expletives of joy, a few thanked me profusely, and a few cried.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah.
Very proud of that. And then I also gave every employee a bonus from the people we had just purchased in 2020. One of my proudest moments, when I bought the original ID Images in 2007, there were 59 of us. 29 remained with me 14 years later when I sold, which for a manufacturing business, it's pretty good, I think.
Unheard of, yeah.
And I gave those people got a special bonus, and I love telling this story. I gave our maintenance guy, and he is what you think of as a maintenance guy, drives an F-350. He's always dirty.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with F-350s, brother.
That. No, he's just the typical maintenance, but great guy.
In Medina County in Ohio, that's kind of par for the course.
Yes, it is.
Right.
And I called him into my office and gave him his bonus.
Wow.
And he cried, and I cried. I didn't even tell him the story to this day. It's probably the happiest moment I had of the sale is like, wow, this is changing my family's life. And it was a substantial amount of money.
I mean, 5 figures, 6 figures.
It was in the 5. Yeah.
Wow. Awesome. So we've got a limited amount of time here, and I could go on and on with you all day, man. But so one of the things, so kind of check that box. We talk about key employee retention, retaining and incenting and aligning your senior management team. You're a big believer in that. I could obviously you demonstrate that. Did you have a board of advisors?
I did. So when I first bought the business, I had a board. I had the outside investors. I bought all of them out by 2012, and then I
kept the board, a sounding board.
I kept people to talk to. I recruited a board of advisors that I thought filled a need I might have. So I had an operations person, had a sales and marketing person, had an industry person, had a private equity person. Who I thought would be a logical buyer of the business at some point. So tried to fill the gap of what I thought I could get help with.
And how often would you meet?
Great question. Originally quarterly, then a couple of guys moved away, so it kind of changed to more of as needed over time.
And then all of a sudden, you and I were thinking about doing some business with each other, and I got an email saying, "Oh, I can't talk to you anymore. I'm busy. I might be keep it down on the down low mark, selling my business." So was that planned?
No.
So you didn't really plan at 47 that, hey, I want out of here. You were continuing to grow.
No, I was continuing to grow. Like I said, in 2020, I made 3 acquisitions during COVID and was ready to grow ready to continue growing the business. In December of 20, Sole Source Capital is a firm that bought ID Images, and they're great people. have done very well with the business and could go on and on about that as well.
Mm-hmm.
They approached me. I said, thanks, I'm not interested. I said, well, can we keep in touch? And we had a nice conversation, and they clearly knew a little bit about our business and knew a little bit about the industry, and said, can we keep in touch? I said, sure. In March of 21, excuse me, they bought my biggest customer. Okay, I better pay attention to these guys, just give them some respect and listen. And so I engaged an investment banker.
So you're seeing the consolidation
Yeah.
in your industry at your level of companies, just like you referred to earlier in the
Exactly.
episode, right? Yeah. Okay.
And so I engaged an investment banker, contingency only, that I'd done some work with in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and told him what I wanted. And I was very candid. And that was one question. I would advise anybody who's thinking of selling, know exactly what you want. So I knew.
Can you be a little bit more specific? Is it not? It's not just about money.
No, it's not.
It's usually not. That's usually not number one, right? I mean, Bo Burlingham writes in the book Finish Big. There's a lot of people that got paid a lot and they're unhappy. So what was go through the list real quick of what did you want?
Sure. So and I agree with you. It's probably not in order, but it's easier for me to talk about it this way because it's the way I wanted a fair valuation, and I wanted to get paid for the acquisitions I made in 2020. I did not want to roll a penny. I wanted all cash. I wanted to be out. So no earn out, no nothing. And I wanted the deal to happen quickly and not be disruptive, be the least disruptive possible to the business. Yeah. And I wanted to leave. I didn't want to stay. I would consult, but I did not want to be the CEO and work for somebody.
So you wanted all your money up front. You wanted to be paid for the acquisitions you just made, even though you probably didn't even ingest them yet, right? Yep. And you didn't want to be there anymore because you know how frustrating that can be, particularly for a leader like you. But you were willing to consult, right? And you wanted to be done fast. So, I mean, this is something that I know firsthand is when these things drag on, it just is emotional.
Time kills deals,
right?
Yes.
Yeah, time kills deals. Gotcha. Okay. So you weren't, so you hired the investment banker. You said, this is what I want. And did they laugh at you?
My banker did. He's like, you realize they're going to say no to this. And I said, that's fine, Kevin. If they say no, we don't do the deal. I'm fine. He called
I don't
me
need
back.
to go anywhere,
Yes,
right? I don't need to leave, right?
Yeah. He called me and said, well, they said yes to everything. So now you got to spend a little bit of money. So we did our own quality of earnings and did our own pro formas on the acquisition. Say, here's what this business will look like.
Mm-hmm.
So we were prepared. So in a nutshell, we sent them all the information June 24th of 2021. Kevin Mayer, my banker, talked to him June 25th. They sent us a letter of intent June 26th, went back and forth. We signed it June 30th, closed July 30th, 2021. So 30 days after we signed the other one.
That's like epic.
It was insane.
Did you just walk into your house and just drop the mic? That is a mic drop moment there, right? We've had a couple of those on this show, but I mean, that is just crazy. So just as we seek to conclude here, what advice would you have for existing owners who are looking to exit?
So do plan. So I wasn't planning on selling it, but we were ready.
This is a layup. Work with firms like mine and other exit planners around the country, right?
And no, in all honesty, have strong advisors. I had an investment banker. I had an investment banking background, but having somebody who's been through the process, that's experienced, definitely have good legal advice.
Yeah.
And the big advice I have is make sure that your advisors compliment you. It was my baby. I was aggressive. I would fight. Yeah. I had a lawyer and a banker who were much more subdued, and some might say more professional than I was. If you're a bulldog, find somebody who's not.
You need a couple sheepdogs, right? You need a couple of golden doodles on your side, right?
And if you're more passive, you need the fighter in your corner. So
gotcha. I like that.
It gets to the emotional intelligence thing. Find somebody who compliments you and bring something different to the table than you do.
That's fantastic. This has been great. I really appreciate it. I'd love to have you on again. I know you're sitting on just as we conclude here, tell us a little bit about, you seem to really be a person that enjoys giving back and kind of paying it forward, if you will. You're serving on a bunch of different boards. You enjoy that work.
Absolutely. It's so fun to be involved. So my latest venture is I was part of the group that bought Mally's Chocolates here in Cleveland.
Okay.
And I'm the board chair, and I'm helping consult, kind of the management transition from the family to, I hate to say professional because the family was professional, but to an outside management. Maybe
I understand. I'm very familiar with that business, and they've been around for ages and ages, and it's a great business. But So you're looking to professionally manage that business. Then you've got a couple. What other size businesses, without getting into too many details, the other boards that you're sitting on?
And a couple are bigger businesses, middle market, that one's in automotive parts, and one's in HVAC, and they're family businesses transitioning from one generation to the next, really helping them with strategy and looking at what they can do to grow. And then another, it's a startup battery chemical business. I was involved with Jumpstart as a mentor, so I was volunteering, and one of the companies volunteered for got to the point where he was looking to raise some capital. So Kelly and I made an investment, and I'm now on his board. And different. This is a complete startup. Zero revenue in the rechargeable battery space. We have got our first revenue now, a year in, which has been great, or a couple of years in actually for him. So it's fun to be involved in businesses with people who want to learn and hopefully have something to give and
willing to listen too, right? And they have to be willing to listen.
Absolutely have
right,
to be willing
to
listen. Yeah,
that's great, Brian. This has been fabulous, ladies and gentlemen. Our guest today has been Brian D. Gale. He's a board member, consultant, and investor. Recently was the chairman and CEO at a very young age, in his mid-40s, and exited quite well. And now he gives back to the business community. Brian, you're on LinkedIn, I assume? People can look you up? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're Brian D. Gale or just Brian Gale?
It's at Brian D. Gale. Yeah.
Okay, and that's Gale for all our listeners. Brian, I can't thank you enough. I consider you to be a good friend and really just admired and really enjoyed watching you from a distance, and great to reconnect with you today. Ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Finish Big podcast with your host, Mark Dorman. Here's to finishing big. Make it a great day. Thank you.
We hope you enjoyed listening to Finish Big, the podcast with Mark Dorman from Legacy Business Advisors. Click the follow button to be notified when new episodes are available. Learn more at legacybusinessadvisors.com or call 330-350-5410. Please be aware the information in these podcasts represent the views and opinions of our guests and do not necessarily represent the views or opinions of Legacy Business Advisors. The content is for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional tax or legal advice. Always seek the advice of your legal or tax professional with any questions regarding your specific situation.